Nante, wo geht's da? Okay, gut.
Jontiv, Bruchim Aboyim, de Heit Davis verbringen a Hakel of a Nash Mונטריאול and the Yeshivas, the Bochrim. Bruchim Aboyim. Like someone told me today that the Rebbe was smart, that every 7 years he made sure that all the moistas come together. Every 7 years you have to make sure everything comes together, a hakel. So in Tashim Amches, which was also a hakel year, Heit Davis, Shabbos Parshas Vayigash, the Rebbe spoke about the connection between Heit Davis and Shnas Hakel, how the union of Heit Davis is the Yom Tov HaSfarim, the union of learning from the Sfarim, Nitzochen HaSfarim, and so too the union of Hakel is to Leman Yishmu, Leman Yilmedu, right? The people should learn Torah, should open up the Sfarim, Nitzochen HaSfarim. That's the whole union of Shnas Hakel, the union of Heit Davis. And at the same time, whenever there's an union in Torah, it's also negea to the zulas. It's not only negea leyatzmoi. So the union of Hakel is an union which is negea to the zulas dafka. There's the makil and the nikol, right? The one who's makil, the one who's gathering, and the one who's being gathered and being taught. That there's a connection between the giver and the receiver, and that's also the union of Heit Davis, which is the union of Tzachon HaSfarim, the union of Limud HaTorah, which is not only for yourself, it's also about helping someone else in the learning of Torah. So we will begin the program by saying the Kapitel of Tilim of the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin. We would like to invite Rabbi Moshe Nu, the Shliach, the Rav in MTC, Mונטריאול Torah Center, to say both kapitels. We would like to ask everyone to stand.
Recording in progress.
Shila Malay says, Elohim Yayin Javiezirim. Ezemi Matino, Yosef Shamayim Vodes. Yitena Mitragla Chayom Shibracha. Hine Layon Vala Yishon Shem Yisrael. Tnei Shemrecha Leitil Chajaji Menacha. Yema Mashemesh Liakeka V'yarech Balayla. Ad nishmor chamikol ra yishmeres nafshecha. Adonai yishmer tzischa v'yecha meyata v'yada elam. Shir Amal is the David Tzemachti ben bimuli beis Adonai neilech. Oim beisoy aglein v'shalayt Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim habnuya ki Yeshua chubralay achdav. Shom all the Shvatim Shifti, your eights in Israel, the Heidex, the Shem Adinoi. Kishol Mayashu Kises, the Mishpat Kises, the Veis David. Shal Shlem Yerushalayim, Mishloy Havoyich. Kishol Bechel, Shal Bam Yisoyich. Man Lachai Berei, Adab Lashalim Moch. Man Beis Adinoi, Elehim, no Avak, Shotev Loch.
Okay, l'chaim. Everyone had this the mashke bottles on the table. Everyone could say l'chaim. You could ask your chaver to pour you, or you could help someone else to say l'chaim. L'chaim levrach. begin the Farbringen now with a few words Dvar Malchus Divrei Torah from our Rav, Rabbi Beryl Bell, Harav Beryl Bell, the Rav of Kehilas Lubavitch, Beis Medrash Lubavitch, and the Chaver in the Beis Din of Montreal.
Chaim. Good Yom Tov, it's Mitzvah Tavis. It's still Hamshah Tavis. So the Masiba is connected, as we heard before, with both Shnas Hakil and also Tavis. Just wanted to bring some Eidus from the days of Tavis. I was living then in Crown Heights, and there's a few things I saw that I didn't see too much written up. Maybe I didn't read everything, but some things that I saw that I thought would be appropriate for the occasion. I was one day, one of the days that I was able, there were different starim about who was allowed to go to court on which day. And one of the days that I was able to go was the day that they read the Rebbitzin's deposition in court. It's known that when there's edus, in a court, when there's testimony, so there's a court reporter that writes into the record all of the testimony and what the lawyers ask and what the person answered, what the witness answered. And sometimes there's an objection. A person says something that's not admissible as evidence, so they make an objection, so the objection is sustained. If you cobble your objection, it doesn't get written into the record, or the objection is denied, whatever the case, and then it's written into the record. But the deposition, but the Rebbitzin did, she didn't come to court. They brought the court to the Rebbitzin, and she gave the lawyers were there on President Street, in the house, and she gave her testimony there, and then it's read into the court. And it's known that this was an extremely painful experience, both for the Rebbe and the Rebbitzin, and the personal nature of the questions that she was being asked, you could tell it was just excruciating. It was just being read into the record by one of the lawyers, I think. So one of the other people was just reading it there, because it was also, it came out, and now they printed the Lange Farbringen from the COVID Kinus HaShulchan, with the week-long Farbringen. So Rabbi Krinsky spoke about that deposition, and that hoping that her sister wouldn't come, which her sister did come there, and there was no way legally that they could tell her to leave. She had the right to be present. And the lawyers were asking all of these personal questions. How many times do you speak on the phone? What do you speak about? It was just extremely difficult. They're reading all this. Then it came a certain point in the reading of the deposition into the record, and then the lawyer for the other side said, objection. I know it's unusual to make an objection before the statement is read, but if you read the statement in the courtroom, there will be chaos. We were sitting over there in the courtroom. Nobody knew what it said. So he wanted it not to be read in the courtroom. So he said, I'm objecting to the next statement. It shouldn't be in the record, and it's not a legal statement, and it shouldn't be read in the courtroom. There'll be chaos in the courtroom. And the judge said, it's okay, I read it already, and you're right, it's not a legal statement, and it's not going to go into the record. You're right, but I read it, and it's a most remarkable statement. That was the statement of the judge, and nobody knew, at least I guess there were people that read the deposition, but the people in the crowd, nobody knew what it was that was stricken from the record. They argued later, should it be stricken, not be stricken, whatever the case is. It turns out, in the time later on, that the Rebbitzin said, they asked, how did the Sfarim belong to your father or to the Chassidim? And the Rebbitzin said, my father himself belonged to the Chassidim, which is not a legal statement. People don't belong to other people. They did away in the United States with the Civil War. They did away with slavery, so we don't have a concept that people belong to other people. It's not a legal concept of ownership. So what struck him from the record, but that Rebbe said later on was what really made the transformation in terms of the Didan Matzach, to bring it down to Peil Mamish. Before this Mishpat, I had a friend that was in law, and I just asked him out of curiosity, it's federal law, in the federal court system, you have to go by precedent. Are there any other cases, anything like this ever happened? So the guy came back to me a few days later. He says, yeah, there's a whole list of cases. Give me a list of cases. And every single case was a question of whether a religious leader, his possessions were his personal possessions and they have the status of personal property, or does it have the status of belonging to the organization, to the religious organization. There was a whole list of cases over there. Every single last case, the judgment was it belonged to the person as a yochid. It belonged to the individual. Every single last case. Okay, so obviously I didn't tell anybody. I said, okay, good, the Didan Matzach will be even bigger. But that was the job of this Goyish judge, to find not only what's the emes, but find a way to be malbishit in Asius that it should be legally acceptable in secular law. And precedent, he didn't have what to go by. And that's why, I could be mocked him with a maisa, I'm majestic a maisa. He once had a conversation with an Israeli who was trying to get into the Air Force. And when he was practicing flying, so just like when you're taking your driver's test, there's somebody in the seat behind you that has the emergency brake, in case you do something wrong. So they have the same thing in these fighter jets. And as he was training, so he was going to go through a certain maneuver, and the trainer told him that you're going to reach a certain point, and we're going to do a certain maneuver, and you're going to feel like you're going to crash, that everything's going straight down. And your reaction is going to be to pull it out of its dive. It says, but the body is misleading you. You have to look at the instruments. Look at the instrument panel, and whatever you do, don't rely on your feelings, rely on what it says on the instrument panel. So, goes up the plane, he does this maneuver, that maneuver, then it comes to this maneuver, and he feels that the plane's gonna crash. So he pulls out, so that's it, end of the session, the guy, trainer took over, we're landing now, and you're not for the Air Force. So he ended up in the Army, so ended up in another branch of the Tzahal, but he was not made for the Air Force. And that's throughout the Mishpat HaSfarim, and B'chal throughout the Nesius, things that to us don't necessarily make any sense, but doesn't matter. When they asked about using the letter from Professor Marx, and the Rebbe told them that they should base themselves on this letter, so it was something which they were evidently not considering using at all, because they thought it would be very flimsy evidence and would be overturned, not taken into account. Whereas it turns out that letter was a mechanism that the judge used to be malbish this entire mishpat in secular law, and it was bulletproof. It survived 2 appeals, all the way up to the Supreme Court. But even though in Seichel and Nushi it didn't make too much sense to the lawyers, but that's it. They had to find a way to have it make sense in Seichel and Nushi. And if I'm not mistaken, that the argument that the judge gave in order to explain how it was communal property, I don't even think our lawyers presented. I think that he did it himself. In other words, he came out, all the evidence was pointing it was a personal possession. And like I said with the precedents, and it turns out that according to the judge's decision, it was Taki. But then with this letter, he transferred possession over to Aguch. So before then, it was Taki his. But with this letter, he transferred it to Aguch. So that letter was the whole basis of the entire Mishpat and the entire Didan Matzach. Came out of something that to our Fleish and Eigen is something which is built in movement. So what does this have to do with Hakim? Right there, it has to do. What does it have to do with Hakim? So the Emes have to tell you, this is, I'm sure everybody heard the story of Aaron Lazer Agadol. You didn't, even if you did, you hear it another time, it's given the Seder, it's a geweldige Meise, Aaron Lazer Agadol over Shalom, when he was in the Shnas Hakel Mem Ches, he was coming back after Tishrei, and he was exhausted. He was verbringing and Mesivchas Torah, and he had to run around and buy different things before he went back to Eretz Yisrael. And he finally gets on the plane, and he's ready to fall asleep. His crash, he didn't sleep for who knows how long, and he's going to fall asleep on the plane. Finally, and Bachal, he was feeling like very, very unsteady with himself. Like hakel, we have to do hakel. Well, what do you mean have to do hakel? Like he's anyway getting together with people. Like what makes it a hakel? Like what exactly are you supposed to do? See, he wasn't sure. See, it's not like you have to sign up children for a Sefer Torah. You know exactly what to do. But here it was amorphous. It wasn't so firmly defined what it is he was supposed to do. And he was exhausted. He said he'll get home. He'll figure out what to do. Meanwhile, he's on the plane full of Yidden. He says, oh, how can I do it? I mean, I have to do hakel. The Rebbe says every single moment you have to do hakel. You have to be a hakel Yid. If you're not blowing your chatzeitzer, as you say, maybe you're not a Kain, you're not blowing chatzeitzer, you're a chassid, and it's a shnas hakel, and you're not koching in hakel. So what's going on with you? So he realizes he has to do something in hakel. So he's exhausted. He's on the plane. What is he going to do? So he figured like this. I'll ask the head, the stewardess, whoever's in charge over there, that can I make an announcement in the plane? And that'll be mine, then I'll talk about hakel. They'll probably say no, everybody wants to sleep over there on the plane. So I'll ask, and they'll say no, and I'll be able to go back to sleep. And I did my part, I did something to try to do hakel, and the trumpet didn't blow so loud, but I tried what I could do. So he asked the head steward. So the guy says, well, not right now, we're serving, but I think in another 3 minutes it'll be okay. So I said, what do I do now? Now I put myself in the position, I could have to stop hakel. And he wasn't prepared. He starts writing on a napkin, he can't put his thoughts together, he's exhausted. Anyway, he got up and he's coming from the Rebbe, he's giving up, he gives a benches, he gives a bracha to all Yidden, Begashmius, a Baruchnius for a good year. And especially it's a shnas hakel. He starts talking, whatever comes in his mind, speaking about shnas hakel, getting Yidden together, this and that. He said, after that, he said, the whole plane started clapping when he finished. And then, people coming to talk to him, and he was putting on tefillin, everybody, like a tremendous hisayrus. Now imagine he might have done this before, but the hisayrus of shnas hakel is something which we don't understand. This is like looking at the instruments. I mean, I don't know, maybe over here everybody's going around, they're blowing chatzeiters, but to me, I have to tell you personally, it's very difficult because look, macha hakel. And the Rebbe said in the Sichos over there, you don't have to be a Rav of a shul to do hakel. Yes, I am a Rav of a shul, so even if it's not a Rav, at the start, yes, it's something I have to, whatever do hakel. People coming to shul, people anyway coming to shul. So when they're going to hang up a hakel sign and say it's hakel now, like what exactly makes it a hakel? And so I tried adding a few things, whatever that I could do in my own way, but I have to tell you, with the little bit that I do, that the reaction is ein areich. It always bothered me. You have people coming from all different communities, and they come into the Babish to daven. They can walk in and walk out for the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years, and they never learn about chassidus. They never hear about chassidus. Actually, hear about chassidus. They come by Heidu and they go at Kush or at Tzadikim and they leave. Okay, so where exactly should they hear? Sometimes there's something on the table. They'll read. They're not read. So we call it hakel. So it's hakel. They have to hear something hakel. Yeah, it's hakel. And a number of people came that have never heard of Kurza Vertlach, which everybody has probably heard before, but that's a Bart here and a Bart there, and people come back later. And I have to tell you, it's not, I don't have a daily from the influence to tell you, but it's for sure ein arech legamri from the effort that I put into it. So what makes a gathering? You're having supper. So in most homes you have anoshim nosha kataf already built in. Yeah, but you're eating supper anyway, so what's the matter? So what makes it a hakel? What makes it a hakel? To make a hakel, you say a pasuk from the table. If not the pasuk parashat Shavuot, but if it's from one of your base psukim, okay, so maybe it'll be a little difficult to say all your base psukim by every single meal. So maybe say one pasuk one day, then on Sunday, another pasuk on Monday, and so on and so forth. Say a pasuk and you do it for hakel. It's also, it's not so, I didn't see it mentioned so many places, but there's a letter from the Rebbe that Rebbe Taka wrote right at the beginning, Shnas Hakel Memches, excuse me, in Mamalati, that to give tzedakah, preferably in a multiple of 10, because there are 10 sugim of Yidden, so when you give stuck in the amount of 10, it's connected with Hakel. It's also connected with Hakel. So everything ultimately connected with Hakel. So we have such a mesiba, and a great yashakeach for the organizers that put this together. The opportunity for us to be machazik, Yishas V'Yeyu. But the bottom line is Pe'el Mamish. In that same, the line of Fabrengen, so one of the Sipurim was said from the Tkufa of Heitevis. So it's known that Rebbe was going to the Eil not every day during that Tkufa, and it was an extremely stressful time period. And there was one day that the Rebbe went to the mikveh in the morning, was going to the Eil, and they had made Fabrengen in Paris. It was during the time for the Mishpat HaSfarim, I don't know exactly the date, but they made a Fabrengen, and everybody made a Chotas Tevis. They made resolutions about what they're going to add on, and they wrote into the Rebbe, and they sent over a list of achlatas, and the masker brought in the list of achlatas to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe looked at the achlatas, and the Rebbe said, today I don't need to go to the Eil anymore. I have a list of achlatas from the Chassidim of Fabrach. I made achlatas teves. So that's how that takes place to go into the Eil Eisachnish, but it's a hira, certainly for us, that the Pe'el Mamish of every Fabring and every gathering is to add on, and just not only a general seder to us, but something particular, what is it to walk out with as many Hakel cards, for example, that you think you have a chance of giving to other people. If you didn't fill out one yourself, to take one yourself, and there's the boxes on the way out that you can put it in and take some to give to other people, and then you're going to have to be prepared. You're going to give the person to fill out this Hakel card, and you say, Zunheit, what's a Hakel card? What's a Hakel? They know what a card is. What's a Hakel card? What am I supposed to do with this exactly? So then you have to figure out what to do with it. You may aid the people, and should be able to be zeicher, that to have the real Hakel, the real Mashiach to Kain of Beis HaMikdash HaShlish.
Thank you very much. Now please direct we're going to play a video now of the Rebbe.
Hello. Muli. You have to do it. You connect, I'm going to connect it to my phone. Is it bro?
Service of God. In our times, gatherings in commemoration of this event must continue to inspire Jewish men, women, and even children. Scheile. Ich glaube, ich darf so gut in der Lage, ich will die Lage durch und sehen an so verleben. Der Hass ist das Hohe, wo andere über solche da. Und ich bin tun. Ich tue mir die Sorge, weil die Gehse, Akronis, Akronis. Manche mich an die Gescheuche Kalle, und gedacht haben, dass du das kann. Ehrlich, wenn die Macht dann den Kornball gab, bis weg. Und am anderen hat das nicht nur nicht gedacht, hat es dann getan. Ich schreibe nicht an mich, vieles. Der Morgen kommt ist nicht nur, und da muss ich gewollt, das Sede, an ihm gesagt, der Barmitz, oder der Basmitz, in den Schäden, Scheiches, Markes, der Akkorden, ab der Kohl, ab Plot, im Schilweh, wie sie stehen in der Abofis oder in den Filis, wo der Morgenkarbon ist. Wir haben die Karte, die Straße Rettung, wenn Kitani, und Kitani, ist eine Schäge Mechanik, nicht nur von der Gäste, Kabinett, Sabicha, Bessimecha, und der Kalitze bei der Achilles Kapsel, der Kalitze bei der, diese Schäge Mechanik, die andere, mit der Unhetzung der Rikelfilme, in Unionen schon Tfibo, was in die Unionen schon Tfibo ist, da sind nicht vieles, was der Morgen Korban hat Tommy Dickmann und Kajeze versetzt. In der Verstandigkeit, die Baumgartere selber sorgen, soll sie nicht vernehmen. Und aber Sabi nicht mechanisch sein, in das Gruppe Machriach zu sagen, dass sie Birchote, schon Ktanim, und Birchotem schon Ktani. Wenn aber toll, in den nicht in der Mechanik, en dan gevinden deze is, waar ze bij hem effenen en zelf zuglenken, en dan zijn die signen, en dan zijn die loschen, en dan zijn die zich, we hebben nog wie welke in den kielen, welke vindt zich gisteren. Onze moen, we gaan pushen, alle gele wees, dat zijn de linien van Hakje, Pschaas met verbinders en met Smarsbeer, zie und die Jiden herumsehen, bis da, als da ging von einem Migdash Schluchni, umschließlich wird der wird am Migdash Gashmi, des Bashtus, siehst du da am Migdash Schluchni, und der Schachante besägen, weil das ein jüdischer Herz. Und in der jüdische Herz, was gewinnt sich bei ihm Beschüsse, und der Gufe, der andere, aber das ist Portik, Dommel, und kommt die Scheife, kommt das von der Herz ab wie, wo der Hot Chol al-Moni und der Chol al-Asmoni, die Portik, Dommel, und kommt die Scheife, und der Damm, wo er Nefesh, der Chol Reiki, der Nefesh, nennt sich, und der kommt an der Hitze, von dem Lehr, was Mare des Boi Leben sehr, und das ist also die Hand, in welche sie retten. Und das Letter auf sich allein, und kommt es beweisen, wie sein Mann des Boi allein auf sich. In der Verstandung der Gelegenheit, der Wildleben der Stühle, was wir dafür drauf tun, wie wir dafür drauf tun, und was wir dafür drauf tun, und in einem Leben hat Jochen schon Achos gehen, und in einem Leben hat Tomer Loster durch eine Gelegenheit, wissen wir nicht, sie da noch weiter haben, und die Gelegenheit nicht. Weil ihr ganze Ike,